Here we go. So this isn't the hand of the tournament. This is by far my favorite hand of the tournament. And I would like to hand this over to you. Before I say anything, I want you to break it down, and I want to hear your thoughts on it before I say anything. So go ahead and let them know what happens and what I got and all that stuff.
So we're in the big blind with 8-3 of diamonds. It folds to the cutoff, and you check your option.
They limp, yeah.
They open limp from the cutoff. You check your option. Small blind folds. Looks like the flop comes ace of diamonds, 2 of diamonds, queen of clubs. So you flop a flush draw with 8-3. You opt to check, at which point they bet about 80% pot. You check raise to a little over 4x. They bet 10,000 and a 13.5 on the flop. You check raise to 43,000. They call off their remaining 30,000 with 9-8 of clubs on ace of diamonds, queen of clubs, 2 of diamonds.
Thoughts?
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Why?
Because even some of your quote-unquote semi-bluffs are going to be at beating them.
Okay, so...
And not to mention your hands that...
You're not impressed with the 50.19% equity they got?
No, I am not impressed that they have a sliver of an advantage against an unpaired flush draw.
Okay,
and they're absolutely dead versus a ton of hands.
I always have to be honest, or I don't have to be, but that's kind of like my brand or whatever. Like I fucking honest Abe over here, but I'm gonna tell what actually happened. And then tell my thoughts about it. So this guy limped off of 10-ish big blinds. I just check. He checked. I jammed. This fucker, when I say snap call, I mean fucking snap calls, which tells me one of two I think are the most likely things.
Yeah, they're ready to go home.
Number one, in no particular order, it was either a misclick type situation or more likely, what you said. It feels just like a F, fuck it.
Yeah.
I'm done, whatever, I don't give a fuck type situation. They snap called. After the hand, so they win the hand, if you're listening. The runs I miss. There was a little conversation afterwards. I said nice, or I forget exactly what I said, but they made the comment, "I've played with you too much, LOL."
To get away from the 9
So
high.
they tried to play it off like this was intentional. I'm not, and I'm saying all this because I'm not ashamed or embarrassed or trying to defend myself here. I love poker. I feel like this would be so fucking cool if this was a well thought out call. In actuality,
there's
I
not
don't
enough time to snap call off here and have it be
right.
8-3 of diamonds crossed my mind.
Yeah, they didn't run it down. They didn't think it out. So I looked at this hand again, and what actually ends up kind of being funny is looking at it. I actually think this is, if you do think about it, I think this is I think the solvers would call here. I think this is actually a pretty good call.
The argument for whether or not they can actually be ahead some percentage of the time versus straight draws and flush draws is one thing. This being a call is not a thing.
So let me give, if I was going to, as Lex Friedman would say, steelman the argument. If I was going to make the argument, they have a 10 big blind stack and they limped. I'm a huge stack in the big blind. If I'm going to shove all my aces, all my kings, even all my queens, or most of my queens, and then I'm checking, unblock.
Are you shoving every ace, king, and queen?
For a 10 big blind stack versus a limp? Pretty much.
That seems so exploitable.
They have a 10 big blind stack and they limped. I'm just, what am I trying to play check and play post flop? When I can just take it down?
It just seems like an unnecessary way to punt off 10 big blinds when everything they're going to be calling you with is going to have you dominated by shoving any ace, king, and queen. Their pairs open rip.
It's 10 bigs, and
I know, but I'm saying just because something's $5 doesn't mean you should spend $5 on it. It just seems like
so what would you would check ace, if you had ace 5 suited here, are you gonna check, or
you're misinterpreting me saying all of those are checks, but you're saying you're gonna shove every ace, king, and queen, just
maybe not every queen, but every good queen, but yeah, I'm gonna try and
okay, well, every good queen's different than every queen.
I'm gonna take my fold equity or my fold
Yeah,
equity.
I'm not saying you wouldn't run it with queen 10 of clubs here.
So
but...
okay, so if I'm mostly gonna raise those hands, and then I'm gonna check like I have the full complement of 3-4, 3-5, 4-5, lower flush draws. Like against that range, if you're heavily discounting big hands,
not every flush draw is a lower flush draw.
I'm not saying this is I'm not saying you should do this. I'm saying this isn't as bad as it might look.
Just said I could get behind this, which means I would do it.
I think there's an argument to. I'm not saying I like saying it and then looking back on and analyzing it. This is something I think maybe I can learn from.
If you're getting destroyed by 2x, why are you getting your money in here?
Am I check shoving 2x here? Like if you're looking at the hands that I think...
because they're good aces shove pre-flop and they're good queen shove pre-flop, so why wouldn't you? Because it's only 10 big blinds.
I don't think this is as bad as it initially looks. I'm not saying do it, but I think if that's the range you're up against, if you're heavily discounting higher cards and there's a full complement that you unblock of lower cards, of the wheel cards, then it's not as bad as it looks. In this particular case, like I said, I don't think this is what happened, and I don't think you should do this. But this is something that happened. I got looked up by 9 high.
You're finding a way to logically explain something that had no logic behind it. You already said you got snap called.
Right.
This is... No one's going, wow, this is a perfect time to bait them with the diamond and straight draw hands that they would have shoved pre-flop, so I'm going to snap call with 9 high. Bet in position.
That hand with... Ryan Reese, when he called there are times where 10 high makes a logical call. I'm saying this is not as so take away what actually happened.
It's not as crazy if there's any thought applied to it. A snap call on the flop is not considering all of these options.
I'm taking it. I told you what really happened. I'm not trying to mislead anybody. Taking this back into theory land. If this exact same spot happened and I had 9-8 of clubs, I think it's at least worth a thought. Whether you put your last, 8 big blinds in is a whole different story. But I don't think it's an auto muck. I think you should at least consider, in the long run, am I actually ahead of enough and not losing to enough that maybe I should at least think about it?
I still think it's a slam dunk no, because not everyone is shoving every ace, king, and queen there.
But you're raising, right?
No.
So you're just like ace deuce. You're just going to check.
If your opponent is any kind of competent to be thinking about how 9 high could be ahead here, they're the same kind of competent to figure out a limping range off 10 big blinds. Okay. Game over. That's a game over.
Would you agree? You should at least consider it, even though it's 9 high. Would you at least consider
folding immediately or after 10 seconds? Yeah, sure. No, I'm not. No, I'm not gonna. You're just looking at a hand that happened to be the one way they could get in ahead. And even so, this is in the perfect scenario, they have a 0.19% advantage.
Well, the perfect scenario would be if I had 5-3 off, then they probably are closer.
No, because then you have more pair outs and straight draws. This is when they actually block one of your pair outs. This is best case scenario.
So yeah, this is my favorite hand of the tournament, but yeah, unfortunately we can't give it the credit that maybe
you're giving it plenty of credit for both of us.
Yeah. So I got looked up by 9 high, and it was correctly so. I want a full investigation by ClubGG.
Even you saying it was correctly is annoying because it's not correctly. It was right. It was.
Oh, I'm sorry. Successful. I'm sorry. It wasn't correct. It was right. I'm sorry. My fault.